from like most decades, 80s through 88, 1980s to 89, it really did change. It changed quite a lot, and it
Mm.
ended with probably the most dramatic title race there have been until Man City won their first Premier League title with
Yes.
Arsenal. But Arsenal weren't seen as big favourites, not even runners up for that season. Would that be fair to say?
That would be right. I mean, at the risk of alienating some of your listeners or viewers, of course there's the photo of Michael Thomas scoring a winner there. I'm a big Arsenal fan, so obviously a smile on my face there. Yeah, I mean George Graham had come into Arsenal in 1986, and what he was, I suppose he was quite fortunate in the sense that he inherited a amazing crop of homegrown players. So Tony Adams, David Rocastle, Mickey Thomas, Paul Merson were all coming through. That's a pretty decent crop of individuals. Very quickly, he kind of got stuck into the team, and as he saw it, those who were perhaps a bit past it, like Paul Mariner and Tony Woodcock, were shipped out. Charlie Nicholas, big favourite with the crowd, but perhaps not a team player, were gone as well. And the emphasis was on, I mean, you now call it the high press. Arsenal relentlessly pressed opponents. And the players that he signed were what I would call definitely blue collar players. So he signed Lee Dixon, Steve Bold from Stoke, Alan Smith from Leicester. They weren't Kevin Richardson from Watford. They weren't what you would call star players, but they were willing to fit into the unit that he wanted, and they worked relentlessly hard. So I'd say the high press, that the strikers Smith and Merson were expected to put. They were the first line of defence. Don't let the centre backs come out and play the ball. And so Arsenal, yeah, they made progress. They won the Little Woods Cup in 1987. 88 they lost in the final, but 88, 89 they were odds on really to win the title for a long time, until they stumbled right at the end when they drew at home against Wimbledon, and then lost to Derby first, then drew against Wimbledon. So you had this amazing scenario that the last game of the season against Liverpool, the only reason it was played then was because of the Hillsborough disaster. It was supposed to have been played earlier in the season, but it got postponed and put back until late May. And so Arsenal went into that game knowing that they had to beat Liverpool, who were the league leaders, by two clear goals to win, to win the title. And no one had beaten Liverpool at Anfield by two clear goals for years. I think it might be 2 years, maybe even three. I think when Everton beat them there in '86. And of course, the tabloids, the Mirror famously said, "You don't have a prayer, Arsenal." Alan Smith scored early in the second half, and then famously, Mickey Thomas got that late winner. But the reason I think it's important, that game, is because I think it showed what football could be. Um, football had been in the doldrums throughout much of the 80s, but here was a game. It was shown live on ITV on a Friday night, and they just paid a big money, well, for those days, big money contract to screen live football, called the Match. And it's kind of like, Super Sunday. What do you call it? What's the Sky thing? Magic Monday? What's it called? I forget what
Oh,
they.
Soccer Saturday.
So yeah, all of that rolled
Yeah.
into one, and then some. I mean, I spoke to Jim Rosenthal, who was on the pitch at that time, and he said, these days that game, Sky or TNT Sports will bite your hand off to show that game, and it's a real kind of vision of what football will become in the 90s. Got the massive TV audience to watch these two great teams. Jim Rosenthal was on the pitch interviewing players, which hadn't really been done before. And of course the drama at the end. You've got the whole thing of that season about the tragedy of Hillsborough, um, the sadness from Liverpool fans from missing out on the league title because they'd already won the FA Cup. Um, you've got this amazing young team with Arsenal coming through to triumph. So you've got tragedy, salvation, triumph, all rolled into one. And I think at that point, football or TV companies realised, you know what, football is marketable. It could be something much better than it has been, and it kind of marks, if you like, that watershed TV moment where you move from the 80s to the 90s. So although you might not be an Arsenal fan, a lot of you can see that it shows what football and this symbiosis between football and TV will become in the next decade.
Yeah. And obviously, you talk about 89, we'll come towards the end now, but that final between Liverpool and Everton, especially after what happened,
Yeah,
being very emotional. Just quickly, before you talk about that, what happened in the end with that Liverpool and Nottingham Forest semi-final? Was that played behind closed doors? Like, what happened with regards to that particular game?
it was played at I think it was Old Trafford. It was replayed at Old Trafford a week later with a vastly reduced crowd for obvious reasons. They didn't want any, chances of any crushing or any issues outside the ground or inside. And Liverpool won comfortably, won that replay. It was a very odd, strange atmosphere. It was more than a week later, sorry, but they replayed it and Liverpool won that replay. Yeah.